Let's start with staying with the Dangote Petroleum Refinery, which has suspended the sale of petroleum products in Naira. According to the management, this is to avoid a mismatch between sales proceeds and crude oil purchase obligations, which are currently dominated in US dollars. The company stated that sales currency would be adjusted to align with crude procurement policy. Now, the refinery also debunked reports that it has stopped loading over incidents of ticketing fraud, stating all systems are robust and there are no fraud issues. The petroleum refinery promises to resume sales of the product in Naira as soon as they receive allocation of Naira-denominated crude cargoes from the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. Joining me live from Abuja is the Chief Executive Officer of AHA Consultancies, Mr. Ademola Adigun. Good afternoon, Mr. Adigun. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Yeah, it's really good to have you on the program at this time. Now, let's start our conversation with this development. Yesterday, we got the information that the price of petrol will now be sold for Naira. That's from Dangote Refinery because of the issues around the Naira to dollar crude oil sales. Now, how does this come to you? What does it mean for the entire market?
It's expected because the crude oil business is actually a dollar-denominated business. And Dangote, by selling in Naira, was absorbing some significant costs, which the government might have been allaying through the crude sale. So you can't sustain Naira sales of crude when all these costs are in dollars. And then the other part of it is that, again, he also has to pay some of his loans, which are also dollar-denominated. So obviously, there's a mismatch if he's selling in Naira and he's getting crude in dollars. So that's the alignment of the crude cargo he's getting. What it means for all of us is there might be a slight change in prices. I think it might go up to like 900 to 925 or 935 in most filling stations in the next few days, depending on when the government can resolve the crude allocation to Dangote Naira again.
Okay, looking at it already, from my research, we see that landing cost already is surged to 900 Naira in some depots in Lagos, up from less than 850 Naira that it used to be. But according to what we heard from the NNPCL before now, there were supposed to be further discussions around this agreement. The federal government committee also came up to say, yes, this is still on. They were just needed to dot some I's and cross some T's. So how does that also come to you?
I think it's a very complicated matter for both parties. They might be impaired by the ability of crude to use for the swaps. I think because the government has taken quite a fair share of loans and used the crude as forward sales, and because, again, sometimes you have declining production, that might impair their ability to continue that agreement. What they said publicly was 48 million barrels has been done so far. So that might be the challenge. But hopefully, maybe in about 3 weeks, a month, we can get back their acts together. And hopefully by that time, the issues in River State will have been resolved as well. Because all the bombing of pipelines and coal also has an impact on our crude production as well. So it's a very complicated system for everybody in this process now. Just that we will pay higher for now.
Indeed, really complicated. Just like you said, some clearly said the forward sales of crude oil by the NNPCL is a key factor behind this failure of the Naira to crude oil deal. But some would say that if we ramp up production and improve what we're doing, well, it's over in between 1.7 and 1.8. And of course, there's been some issues in River State, which everyone is talking about. How do you see us considering this ramping up production at this very critical time?
We will ramp up production up. I mean, good thing is that the government has concluded all the deals of the divestments by Shell, by Mobil, and by Ajip. That's a good thing. That means we have clarity on where to go, and these people can increase their production volumes. The only challenge I foresee now is the tax bills being discussed at National Assembly. Sources say that the bills are not in alignment with the proclamations of the executive bills by the president. So if the president has done some executive orders which allow more investments in the deep offshore, and then tax bills take it back. Then we have a complicated process where there'll be lower investments on the long run. So it's a mix of ensuring the policies continue, ensuring the stability in Niger Delta and there's peace, ensuring that we are able to meet obligations. There's no reason why in the next few months we can get 2.5 million barrels if everything works as it ought to. But again, that depends on the government's ensuring there's more coordination in that space.
Now, clearly for me, another worry is the fact that there would be pressure or demand for Forex. And we've seen a bit of stability in that market in recent times, considering all the efforts of the Apex Bank in trying to address the disparity that we used to have between the black market rate and, of course, the official exchange rate. Now, when there is so much high demand for FX, obviously, it will affect the Naira.
Naturally. The Naira, surprisingly, Naira is doing well now. They gained some like 30 Naira yesterday or in the last few days. The challenge is this. The only source of aggression we have right now are loans or selling crude. Now, if they don't give Dangote crude in Naira, I presuppose that they'll sell that crude in FX. That means they'll earn more FX, which they can use to shop their reserves, which they can use to intervene in the market. So it's a funny thing. The government will now have more crude to sell and need more revenue in foreign exchange, and then the default losses. Now, as to Dangote and everybody chasing FX, that never really changed. It never really changed. It never really went away. Because I said earlier on, I think it was on your program as well, the whole business of production of petrol is a dollar business. So whether you give it Naira crude to Dangote, he starts to find FX for other component parts of it. So crude is only one part of the process of producing petrol and other products. So he starts to buy other additives, he starts to run his refinery, he starts to pay so many things. So it's not going to change dramatically. Now, for the dealers who now have to find FX to buy from Dangote, that might be the pressure to talk about, and which is to. Well, I think they'll find a way around it, but the only thing is that we'll pay more to be us, the consumers, that'll pay more.
So it comes back to us as consumers. But does this speak to any part of the PIA? You know, for some time now, we've been talking about the proper implementation of the PIA, and we've been moving on with it. And in a deregulated market, even Nigerians were expecting this to drop some more. Some were even looking at 600 or 500 Naira. But at this point, yes, really, at this point, where do we, the implementation of the PIA, where does the PIA stand in all of this?
Well, the PIA is not as well implemented as it ought to be. I mean, we made a lot of progress around. Let's be clear about that. We have a regulated market, which is getting into its feet. It's working well, but there's some very tiny issues that need to be resolved. I've been following with interest the case with the court on competition and monopoly and importation and others. I support importation of petrol, not because we can't produce locally, but because it helps pricing. I always tell Nigerians that you benefit when there's a price to compare your products with. And I tell people all the time too that Dangote is not competing with NNPC refineries because they're not the competition. It's competing with other refineries of its grade around the world. So now if people import, I mean, whatever volumes they're importing, then the pricing comparison can be good. So if landing cost is 724, Dangote can sell for 955 because landing cost will be cheaper than what it's selling. And if landing cost is too low, so it helps competition in the market, which we should all strive for. That is one area that needs to be more. But again, we are benefiting now. I mean, it went to as low as 815 in some sessions. And there's all that thing that we expected from a regulated market. But then we also need more oversight of the market. We don't want unfair practices. We don't want anti-competition behavior. We want prices to reflect the reality of the markets. We don't want anybody to use the advantage of strength to chase out other people. But so far, so good. We are benefiting. Nigerians are getting the best out of it. And I think the PPPRA and other agencies are doing a good job around it.
I'm going to take it up from that aspect of competition, which you mentioned, because many have talked about not allowing any entity monopolize the petroleum market. And that's where the role of the NNPCL comes in. And some would ask, it has been a regulator and also a player in that market. They can be two in one. So what is your take with regards to the role of a national oil company in supply and distribution of petroleum products, particularly for energy security?
Well, there's two things to clarify. NNPC in reality is not a regulator. They are in reality a commercial operator according to the PIA. Now, NNPC doesn't like it when people say it. They function from quasi-regulatory rules, not because of design or law, but because of the involvement of the oil and gas sector. And because they've been there before the PPRA, they were there when DPR was created. So NNPC has been what it has been. And it takes some time before they win off that area. So that's clarifying that. The PIA says NNPC is the importer of last resort. And NNPC must guarantee availability. That puts them in a position where whatever they want to do, they have to import petrol. Whether they make it at a loss, whether they're using strict revenues, whether they're using whatever mechanisms, they have to import. They have to import or produce in refineries. The refineries are not working at speed as it should be now. And even if they're working at speed, it can't be the market demands. Now, Dangote has done a very terrific job for Nigerians. He's done a very, very excellent job. I mean, his investments has put us in a place where we have ability to ensure that he can meet all our needs. But again, Dangote might not be able to meet all the needs even by law, because the law regulates what you can own in the market in such essential products. And then Dangote being a single train refinery is also a risky venture for Nigeria. Any part of that process can affect supply for a long time. So we have to balance the two. What I think should happen is the regulators should stay on course, ensure there's no price fixing, ensure the prices are reflective of competition, ensure the innovation is not killed. If Dangote, for his own capacity, his nearest of refinery, is more innovative and can bring in prices lower and can bring in quality, it should be encouraged. It shouldn't be stifled. It should be encouraged to do what it should do. But what it does be a fair playing ground. So NNPC should continue the investment in revamping refineries for its security, for export processes, for any more revenue. Dangote should continue to, again, do what it's doing, which is helping Nigeria with supply, helping the African continent, and producing products that have very good quality. So it's that game. But where the gap might lie now is most of us don't understand what competition is. We're not sure what anti-competition behavior is. We're not able to see long-term benefits of a strong regulator in the industry. Most of us would just like things to happen without any regulator, which has benefits short-term, but has a negative impact long-term. But as of now, I'm happy as where we are. We should keep where we are as where we are. Everybody should play their part. NNPC does the guaranteeing of products. Dangote doing a very excellent job in ensuring price stability. Price is going down when they can get that. The government, with its crude allocation, allowing Nigerians to benefit from something we have locally. And the PPRA doing his job. I'd like to see more of SCCPC in that space. Also understanding that nobody is being unfairly chosen. Frequent price disruptions are not good for anybody in the sector. When you change prices every week, nobody gains from it. Because if you're a businessman and you buy products last week, then somebody changes the price tomorrow, you lose a lot of money. And that will force you out of the business if you keep on making losses. So it doesn't work for anybody's advantage. So in other countries, they do what they call modulation. They allow a period of time for price changes. So you usually see like a month to 2 months where prices are announced that this will be the range. And then even if things happen, maybe could prices get lower, they also stabilize this. They think about the market and they don't disrupt the market too much. Frequent market disruptions are not good for us. So that's the kind of things that need to come into play as well. So we need to protect everybody, protect the big boys, protect the small boys, encourage innovation, encourage efficiency, and ensure that the market reforms are also strengthened.
Interesting stuff. Now, let's take a look. Let's take a drift now, dive into the crude oil market in its entirety, considering some geopolitical issues that we see. Some say we might even see a drop of crude to as low as $60, considering what is happening in the United States and all of the tension, the tariff issues and all of the drill from Donald Trump. I don't know how that also comes to you, Mr. Adigun.
I love that. I want crude to be $60. $60 is good for refineries. Refineries make more margins when the price of crude is lower. When the price of crude is low, the margins are much, much lower, and there's very little profitability. In fact, in refining, studies indicate that $60 is optimum price for refinery margins. So that for refining is good. Now for Nigeria, what people will say that the revenues we earn from micro prices, well, that's one part of it. But then the thing we need to work upon is agricultural production. I know the investment arm of NNPC has been trying to get production costs going lower. I know there's a lot of work on oil security in the NSS office. I know there's a lot of work on oil theft. So what we need to do is, if we get down our production cost to less than $18 per barrel, $60 is good for everybody in the world. It encourages investment, does attract investment, encourage optimum efficiency of use, encourages pricing at a range where we can afford it. So lower crude prices means lower prices of retail products. So I don't have any fear with that. It's when there's a glut in the market, that is when the fear is. But if I a glut, if there's price, is good. We have problems in Nigeria in selling our cargo now. Some cargoes are not being sold as fast as possible, which is why I think the Dangote relationship should be encouraged, because Dangote is a taker for our products. There shouldn't be a time when Nigerian cargo has stranded anywhere across the world. But $60 is not bad, from my experience.
But are we also likely to see a surplus in production more in 2025 if we go on by this?
That would be good. I hope it won't happen. I know that Trump is encouraging fracking and others, but that's not cheap. Fracking is expensive.
Yeah, it is.
Crude will be coming like $73, $74 based on my numbers. So it won't really compete with the crude. I know he's also working on Saudi Arabia and others to ramp up production and ensure the prices are too low. But then we have OPEC. OPEC does what it needs to do when it needs to do it. OPEC knows how to do cuts when it does that. We haven't met our quota as it is now. So it would be nice to also meet our quota first before anything even has oversupply. So I think there will be regulations, there will be market correction. But anything less than $60, I'll start worrying and I'll start panicking. So at that point in time, Nigeria makes a lot of loss. We are not efficient in our COP. And that's something we need to work on, really. So anything lower than $60 doesn't work out for us.
Well, finally, before I wrap up this segment, our budget is predicated on about 2.06 million barrels per day and at $75 per barrel. And of course, considering where we are at the moment, how feasible is that moving forward?
Well, I don't know whether to be honest or be politically correct.
Please be honest.
Or to be blunt. Okay, the budget is a joke. It's been a joke for the past 10 years. Every government we've had in the last 10 years, they do projects, make it comedy. It's a farce. They make out projections that are not based on reality. They make out projections that are not based on previous experiences. And you ask them, how do you get these numbers you put forward? So if you're a country, if you're doing 1.3, 1.4, you know how much inventory you have, you know how many machines, how many drills is going on in your country, and then you now say you're doing 2.06 million barrels. That's comedy. That's a farce. You look at average prices of crude. You look at the location. You look at the mob finds around the world, and then you put it on $75. Another farce. So I think by design, there's a national agreement to make our budgets jokes. So that's why performance is always averaging 45%. And then you're going to go and borrow the differential that you need to, because you could have planned on what you have. How long are we going to continue with this budget comedy and farce we've been doing for the 20-something years in reality? So it's going to continue. Nothing's going to change. It won't get to 0.06 numbers. It won't happen. There won't be $75 price of crude, except there's a war created by Trump and his funny policies. It's a comedy. It won't happen. That's me being blunt.
I must thank you for your time as always. Mr. Ademola Adigun is the Chief Executive Officer of AHA Consultancy. Joined us from Abuja. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Very much. I appreciate it.